What drives a person to destroy something beautiful for their own gain, only to lose everything in the end? In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the scent of blooming flowers filled the air and the community thrived on shared spaces, one woman's obsession spiraled into a tragedy that no one saw coming. This is the story of Karen Whitmore, a woman whose choices shattered not just a park bench, but the trust of an entire town and her own life in the process. Karen Whitmore was a familiar face in Willow Creek, though not for the right reasons. At 42, she carried herself with an air of entitlement, her sharp voice often cutting through the calm of the town's serene park. The park, with its vibrant flower beds and sturdy oak benches, was the heart of the community, a place where children played, couples strolled, and retirees shared stories under the shade of ancient trees. But Karen saw it differently. To her, the park was an untapped resource, a canvas for her own desires. It began innocently enough. Karen, a self-proclaimed organizer with a knack for hoarding, had run out of space in her cramped apartment. Her collection of vintage lamps, chipped teacups, and faded magazines had overtaken every corner, leaving her desperate for storage. The park, just a block away, became her solution. One spring evening, under the cover of dusk, Karen eyed a secluded bench near the rose garden. It was old but solid, its wooden slats polished by years of use. She decided it was perfect not for sitting, but for hiding her treasures. With a crowbar and a hammer from her cluttered toolbox, Karen pried open the bench's backrest, revealing a hollow compartment beneath. It was a relic from decades past, designed to store small maintenance tools. To Karen, it was a gold mine. She began stashing her belongings inside boxes of trinkets, stacks of yellowed letters, even a porcelain doll wrapped in bubble wrap. Each night, she'd return, her flashlight flickering as she tucked away more of her hoard, oblivious to the damage she was causing. Splinters littered the ground, and the bench's once smooth surface grew jagged and scarred. The townsfolk noticed. At first, they whispered about the bench's condition, assuming vandals or careless teens were to blame. But then, young Tommy Kessler, a curious 10-year-old who loved sketching the park's flowers, saw Karen one night. Hidden behind a lilac bush, he watched as she shoved a rusted candelabra into the bench, muttering to herself about no one appreciating her things. Tommy, wide-eyed, ran home and told his mother, Lila, a soft-spoken librarian who cherished the park as much as anyone. Lila decided to investigate. The next morning, Lila gathered a small group, Pastor Daniel, who led the town's community events, and Rosa, the park's volunteer gardener with a fiery spirit. Together, they inspected the bench. What they found shocked them. Not only was it damaged beyond repair, but Karen's hoard had attracted ants and mold, ruining the nearby flower beds. Rosa's prized Karen roses, vibrant orange blooms named after a beloved former mayor, were wilting from neglect. The group's anger simmered, but Lila urged caution. "We need proof," she said, her voice steady but firm. Unbeknownst to Karen, her actions were about to unravel in ways she couldn't imagine. Enter Clara, a quiet newcomer to Willow Creek. Clara was an unassuming woman in her 60s, always seen with a sketchbook, drawing the park's landscapes. Few knew her story. She was a retired lawyer who had moved to the town seeking peace after a career defending public spaces from destruction. Clara had noticed the bench's decline and, suspecting foul play, began documenting it. She took photos, noted dates, and even collected a splinter with Karen's initials carved into it, a habit Karen had from her hoarding days. Clara's evidence was meticulous, and she shared it with Lila's group. The twist came when Clara revealed her past. "I've seen this before," she said, her voice low but resolute. "People think public spaces are theirs to exploit. They're wrong." Clara wasn't just a bystander. She was a force, a woman who had fought developers and corporations to protect community lands. Her presence shifted the group's plan from confrontation to justice. They decided to take Karen to civil court, seeking damages not just for the bench but for the park's desecration. Karen, meanwhile, remained defiant. When Pastor Daniel approached her, asking about the bench, she scoffed. "It's just a bench," she snapped, brushing her bleach-blonde hair from her face. No one uses it anyway. Her arrogance blinded her to the growing storm. The town rallied, raising funds for the lawsuit through bake sales and car washes. Their unity a stark contrast to Karen's isolation. Even Tommy contributed, donating his allowance with a note. For the flowers. The court day arrived, a crisp autumn morning that felt heavy with anticipation. The small courtroom buzzed with Willow Creek residents, their faces a mix of anger and hope. Karen, dressed in a garish pink blazer, sat alone, her lawyer visibly exasperated. Clara took the stand, presenting her evidence with the precision of a seasoned litigator. Photos showed the bench's destruction over weeks, timestamps matching Karen's late-night visits. The splinter with her initials was the final blow. Gasps filled the room as the judge, a stern woman named Margaret Holt, leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Karen's defense crumbled. She claimed the bench was abandoned, that her storage needs justified her actions. But the judge wasn't swayed. "This park belongs to everyone," Judge Holt said, her voice cutting through Karen's excuses. "You treated it as your personal warehouse, destroying a community treasure." The verdict came swiftly. Karen was to pay $120,000 in damages, covering the bench's replacement, the ruined flower beds, and legal fees. The sum was staggering, more than Karen's savings and her part-time job at a thrift store could ever cover. The aftermath was brutal. Karen's apartment, already a maze of clutter, was seized to cover part of the debt. She moved to a dingy motel on the town's outskirts, her belongings reduced to a few bags. The town, though victorious, felt no joy. Lila, who had hoped for reconciliation, visited Karen, offering a chance to make amends by volunteering in the park. Karen refused, her pride unbroken even in defeat. "You all ganged up on me?" she spat, slamming the door. Clara, the unexpected hero, became a quiet legend in Willow Creek. She didn't seek praise, but her sketchbook now included drawings of the restored bench, surrounded by blooming Karen roses. Tommy, inspired by her, began sketching again, his pencil capturing the park's renewed beauty. Rosa replanted her flowers, her hands trembling with pride as the roses thrived. The park healed, but the scar of Karen's actions lingered, a reminder of what happens when selfishness overrides community. Karen's fall was more than financial. She became a pariah, her name whispered in cautionary tales. The park bench, once a symbol of her greed, was replaced with a new one, engraved with a simple plaque, "For Willow Creek, forever shared." Karen saw it once, passing by on her way out of town. Her eyes lingered, but she said nothing, her face a mask of regret and defiance. In the end, the story of Karen Whitmore wasn't just about a bench or a lawsuit. It was about the fragility of shared spaces and the cost of taking them for granted. The town learned to protect what they loved, but the victory was bittersweet. Karen's life, once filled with the clutter she cherished, was now empty, her choices a heavy weight she'd carry alone. The Karen roses bloomed brighter than ever, but for Karen, they were a painful reminder of what she'd lost, not just money, but her place in a community that had once welcomed her. ND.